Good morning, everybody. As we start this extraordinary council meeting, extraordinary because it's not a normal scheduled one, and there's just one agenda item in it. So welcome to councillors, both online and in the chamber, to staff, again online and in the chamber, and to members of the public, and welcome to the media. We'll first of all take apologies. So we do have an apology for Councillor Cowles. I think an apology for lateness, maybe for Councillor Holding. Any other apologies?
I'll move the accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Moving they're accepted, and seconded Councillor McCone. Those in favour online, if hold your hand up, or in the chamber say aye.
Aye.
And Councillor Holding's there. Okay, so it's just Councillor Cowles. Okay, that is carried. Any declarations of interest? Okay, we will move on to the main agenda item, and I'll hand over to Mr. Parnley.
Thank you. So this is obviously a matter that we've been giving considerable attention to over recent months and indeed recent years. The discussion around water and the future of water has been debated, and we've seen various reforms come and go. But the paper before you represents the next stage in the progress of work to meet the requirements of the government's Local Water Done Well reform. So the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act 2024 requires all councils to submit a water services delivery plan by the 3rd of September. And so therefore time is tight to respond to this requirement. But despite that, we've given considerable attention to this and put a lot of effort into developing robust proposals that meet the government's requirements, whilst also bringing benefits to the Waitaki District and its communities. The process we've been going through has been a staged process. So in February, you agreed a partnership agreement with our partner councils, Gore, Clutha and Central Otago District Councils, to form the Southern Water Done Well group and develop a joint proposal for a shared water services organisation and water services delivery plan. The government requires all councils to consult on practicable options for the delivery of water services in the future, and in doing that to state what their preferred option is. So we are required to have a preferred option in that consultation. One of the key messages we need to communicate to our community is that there isn't a status quo option in the future of water. And since the Havelock North incident, every government has sought to improve standards and increase investment in water infrastructure. And so this government's Local Water Done Well reform requires all councils to make change. There isn't a status quo option. Change needs to be made by every council in the way it manages and invests in water. Therefore, every option open to councils, including keeping water services in-house, requires significant change, including it be subject to more intense regulation, for example, from the Commerce Commission as the economic regulator, who will require water service providers, amongst other things, to have robust plans that are financially sustainable, including therefore ensuring charge increases are sufficient to meet the investment requirements to both meet the standards and replace ageing infrastructure. At the beginning of April, you agreed the Southern Water Done Well proposal as the council's stated preferred option for the consultation. So you also agreed to include the option in this for partnering with the South Canterbury councils, although this option is still in need of considerable work to develop it to a stage where it could be considered a practicable option. The purpose, therefore, of today's meeting is to agree the consultation document based on the decisions you've already made, including around options. After the consultation, there will be a chance to consider the results of that consultation, and then the council will be asked to agree its final proposal in the form of a water services delivery plan to be submitted to the government's Department of Internal Affairs. And it will ultimately be up to the government to decide whether it meets their requirements or not. The consultation document has been developed with our 3 partner councils so that we have a consistent message going out to our 4 communities. And working in partnership brings its challenges in terms of trying to make sure we get something that suits everyone's needs. The document is also comprehensive, as this is a complex matter. And it responds also to the many issues raised when we initially consulted on water through the LTP process, including a call from large sections of our community for more information on the proposals and the options to enable them to engage with us on this issue. It's important to recognise that this document is really the base tool in our consultation, and wrapped around this will be a comprehensive communications and engagement campaign utilising different approaches and different tools to engage our different audiences. So this includes social media posts, short videos, media features, community drop-in sessions, webinars, and Facebook Live sessions. So there's quite a comprehensive programme to really get out there, engage with different people in different ways so that we can generate a better understanding of the options and the changes we need to make, and gain meaningful input from our community in terms of the decisions that need to be made. So the recommendation today is to agree the consultation document so that we can commence informing our community better on this complex matter and gaining their views on the future of their water services ahead of the decisions you need to make in July this year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harmley. Right, councillors, do you have any questions to start off with? Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, one question. I noticed that I have views on the document, which I will express shortly, but specific questions. Do those who have drafted this material think it's prudent to have the financial information buried, well, not buried, but actually withheld or only included tangibly, manifestly in the document on page 31? My instinct is that most people are going to basically say, what's it going to cost me? And I wonder why we haven't put it that information a lot earlier in the material. Although I do understand the logic of the flow of information contained within it and how that might be slightly problematic. The other question, it does seem to me, the page 24, if I can have a look at that, that's the option of the jointly owned council-controlled organisation with the South Canterbury districts, Timaru, Mackenzie and Waimati. It would seem to me that there's material on that page that needs to be amplified, and I'm wondering what officers intend to do. I notice, for the sake of argument, on that page that says the key areas where greater clarity is needed. Now, it may well be that the ownership issue does need to be sorted, and it may well be that the control matter also needs to be sorted based on the information I'm reading. But I can't see why greater clarity is needed with pricing, where it says council have agreed to individual and not harmonised pricing. So, and also, I just wonder whether we're giving people enough information. We say that Waimati has made the decision to consult on a joint CCO with Timaru and Mackenzie, but not with Waitaki. However, Waimati's preferred option is in-house delivery. What does Waimati's position mean in terms of the possibility of a jointly owned council-controlled organisation with Timaru, Mackenzie and Waimati? If they've said they don't want to do business with us, what impact does that have on option 4? And in respect to page 24, giving our community information, do we now have additional material that needs to be included on that page to amplify some of the issues raised but not resolved?
So I'll make a start on those multiple points, starting with the financials. I mean, I'm glad you retracted the very bit. The document has a logical order to it, including where it logically makes sense to put the financial information in there. I think when we come to the other engagement methods we'll be using, clearly people will want to know what the financial impact will be, and we'll be making sure that that's absolutely apparent. But I think it's also important that we make sure that this isn't just a discussion about the finances. We know that is important to people, but there are many other things to consider in this, and we need to make sure that that comes out in the discussion. That in terms of the resilience of services and other things that will impact the quality of service that people can expect from each of the options as well. So I think it follows a logical order, and that seems the right place to put it in terms of telling the story about the different options. In terms of option 4, I think this sort of amplifies the challenge we have in terms of how well developed this option is and how much clarity there is in terms of where the other councils are at on this. So I think we've used best endeavours to provide the best available information at this stage, and what we can't do is speculate what other councils might be thinking when they haven't explicitly resolved anything at this stage. But clearly, if those other councils decided that they didn't want to be in a joint CCO with Waitaki involved, and they just wanted to focus on 2 or 3 councils, then that wouldn't be open to us. We can't make them partner with us, and so that's their decision to take. But we haven't got an express view from them on whether they are explicitly open to Waitaki being part of that or not.
Supplementary then, don't we have to say that? I mean, when I read this as a layperson coming to all of this for the first time, when I read that first paragraph, the work undertaken by this group of councils also indicated that a joint CCO is the most desirable of the 3 options available for Waitaki, though this is not the preferred option for all the councils in this group. I mean, that doesn't say to me clearly and explicitly, these guys have signalled they want to work with each other, but they don't appear to be quite as keen as to work with us. And we have to take that into account. By all means, have a think about this, but it's not clear whether they are actually willing to talk in detail with us about partnering up. I mean, it just doesn't seem to me that I understand the problem we have is the fact that others are not being as explicit as we would like them to be, and they're not necessarily engaging with us at the level of detail or with an approach that we would prefer. But don't we have to actually say that? And don't we actually have to say this makes it pretty difficult to see where this one's going to go because we just don't know what these people are really thinking?
I think this is a challenging matter in terms of where the partners are at and what the councils have actually resolved. So we can only go on what they formally resolved, and we know what Waimate has resolved, which did not include Waitaki in that. In terms of what Mackenzie has put to their council, it is, I think, ambiguous as to who the other councils would be in that partnership. I think Timaru has similar, and I think that's all we can say because we have to go on what's formally resolved. We can't second guess what people might be thinking and where they might be at in terms of that. So I think the wording we've got there, I think, is sufficient to cover that.
Well, shouldn't we? Okay, option 4, as of today, shouldn't it read a jointly owned council-controlled organisation with South Canterbury District Councils, Timaru and Mackenzie? Shouldn't we just cross Waimate out? If they've said they don't want to come get into bed with us or join up in a CCO with us, why are we telling people that that's an option? Because they've chosen to say it's not.
Because the work we've been doing with those other 3 councils is on a shared CCO for 4 councils, but we know that they've also been doing work on a shared council for shared CCO for 3 councils.
I think this reflects the complexity of the discussions we've been having all the way through, and certainly my experience has been that some parties haven't been as engaged or willing to engage as others, and obviously Waimate has come out and said their preference is to keep it in-house. I think everyone around them would be saying that's not realistic for their ratepayers. There's only so many times you can ask someone to dance with you, and so many rejections you get before you think that maybe there's not a dance there for you at all. I have had good discussions with Mackenzie and Timaru, and they are showing more of a willingness than Waimate has, which is commendable. Equally, the Southern group has been very open right through, and they have been literally the coalition of the willing. And I'll talk more to this when I get to it, but I think the opportunity for us is to actually be a group of 6 councils. Whether DIA comes along and says to Waimate, you have to join a CCO, whether any CCO wants them to join, those are questions for the future. We've tried to keep things as flexible as possible, but I do agree that there probably needs to be a comment in there that the work's been done with the 4 South Canterbury councils and ourselves, and it reflects that. But we know that Waimate preferred option is to go alone, and I can't see them changing that. We can't put that part in. I mean, it's still going to be their decision, but that's where they're at the moment. And I think we could qualify it by saying that. I'd ask staff whether they can incorporate that, given that part of the document is particular to us and not the other Southern councils. John, can you comment on that? Thanks.
We will be doing another edit run through the document today, because since this was placed on the agenda last Friday, Timaru and Mackenzie have both actually set their decision for a joint CCO without specifying which group of councils, kind of leaving it open for a 3 or potentially 4-1. Waimate have not changed their position on this, and we want to make that really clear here as well, that these are what these councils are doing. As has been said here, the discussion, I think it is there are some key matters that are not as well developed, or where the individual councils are still to make a decision. We can take out the individual councils are still to make a decision. They've all decided, but a lot of the content is not as well developed. And we will be making that really clear in the edit run we do after this meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Blackler.
Thank you. I just my question. I've got a bit of feedback here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, we're hearing you okay. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's quite off-putting talking, but I just I had a question whether there was an openness to making an amendment to page 48 where the options are listed. My suggestion would be that changes to from a tick box type setting to a ranking. So rank options 1 through 4, in your highest priority. I just think it would garner more data points in terms of community perspective.
Through the chair, Tim, can you explain? I'm looking at page 48 and I can't see. Are you talking about Q4, or which part of it would you like to modify, please?
Yeah. That's correct. So Q4, rather than being a tick box, tick the which of these is your preferred option, where you have the option to select one. It would be rank these options 1 through 4, with 1 being the highest or the most desirable, through to 4 being the least desirable.
Yeah, I'll look to officers to respond to that. Bit of conferring going on. John.
We are currently obviously setting up the online version of the survey, and the aim has been for the Southern Waters Dunwell councils to have aligned data collection, so that each council collects exactly the same information from its communities, which means that as a partnership, we can look at what is being said and where across the whole region. Making a change like that now would obviously put us slightly out of step with the other 3 partner councils, which could be challenging given how close we are to going live.
I guess the question follows, does that matter in this particular instance? Because we're going to be making decisions on an individual council basis.
It's a very good question, and it's one I'll have to consult with the other comms people involved in setting up the survey. I believe there may be some data sharing here because of the partnership,
right,
that would be going on. So we might have to clean our data up a little bit more to just take the first preference options if we were going to be working with the other councils on that, on any information sharing based on our feedback.
So Tim, are you happy that officers work on that, and if it can be accommodated, that it is?
Yeah, sure. I mean, ultimately, I'm less interested in what other councils think about how our data shapes up. I'm more interested in what we think of how the consultation shapes up. So however that's handled, I don't mind, but I would find it useful to kind of drill into those perspectives a little deeper than just taking the top pick.
Yeah, for sure. Totally get that. So I'm not sure if Alex wants to give a
Yeah,
response.
I was just going to say, I think, this is your consultation document. So ultimately you decide. I think the challenge is that, we're going to work in partnership. We want to get consistency, but ultimately, if that's what you as a whole, as a majority or, whole council wants us to do, then, that's what we'll look at doing. And I think we'll overcome the challenges we have in terms of comparable data with the other councils. So it'd be good to, get an indication if that's the will of the council.
Yeah, I think it'll be easy enough thinking about it now to say whatever the number one choice is, essentially their tick if they only had one option, and then the others rank from there, which gives us that qualitative data that you're asking for. So it's a good question, good suggestion. I'm not sure who had their hand up first. Jim Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to support Councillor Blacklist's suggestion. I think the more information that we can gather, and also the more options that the community have, will aid their sense of feeling that it's genuine engagement.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hannah.
Hey, thank you. Through the chair, no, I'm supportive of Councillor Blackler as well. I think just the qualitative summative, information will be helpful when we, when we're deliberating at the next stage. So supportive of that, even if it's a question 5, if it's gonna, I'll leave that up to the officers, but I'm supportive. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think we're all good for that now. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Hannah, your hand's still up. That's just from before. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any motion from anyone then? Tim?
I just wanted to I guess express my view on the options as have been fleshed out, 1 through 4, and while I accept the the complexities that have been put forward around putting all the detail together, I do think option 4 is lacking significantly in some things that could be at least put forward from our council's perspective. Like I don't see any reason why we couldn't insert the page with the detail around the upside, the downside. I think like in option 1 we've got the schematic of the regional distribution overall, and the lengths of pipes and number of connections. Based on the Martin Jenkins work that's been supplied, there's no reason why that information couldn't be illustrated for the option 4 scenario as well. I just felt the need to make that comment.
Yeah, I know officers have been working really hard to get the option 4 included in there, because there's been a whole lot of work that had to be done that hadn't been done, just because that South Canterbury group was less advanced. But take your point on where there is information. Is there time or opportunity to add a few more pages perhaps to the document? I'll go to Councillor Hopkins. No, I'll go to John on that one. You able to respond on that? John, our comms person, just in case I didn't introduce him before.
I'm just having a read through the Martin Jenkins. Obviously, a lot of the data that is for the other councils was a part of the collaboration with the comms teams, as in information sharing that took place during April. And while I believe there might be some information we could potentially include, I don't think we're going to get to the same standard regarding the same standards as what we have for the other 3 options. I'm just actually looking, Councillor Blackler, for the data on the number of connections and population sizes, and whether or not that would be possible. I would have to go and talk to my manager, who is our wonderful graphic designer for this, before making any decision, and possibly have a chat with Mr. Hope about how we pull that information together.
I mean, even if it was just a matter of a table, just to show that respective data, and essentially for the 2 councils that are showing themselves as being more willing to be part of a larger group.
I think if we have it, we'll insert it, whether in graphical form or tabular form. I think we'll make best endeavours to do that.
I think Councillor Hopkins will be pleased to know there is space on that page for a table, so it would not be any additional pages potentially. It's possible we could put that just in the space underneath that.
Okay.
So there'd be page 33 of the
24 of the document, 33 of the.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move the recommendations with a slight change to number 1, approves the draft consultation document Southern Water done well, attachment 1 with amendments as agreed, and then number 2 and 3 as is. Do I have someone second that? Councillor Linwood, thank you. Just speaking to that, this is another step on what is a very important journey that we're on, a journey that has taken years, and is looking at how we look after our ratepayers best. And I keep reiterating that with our community. This is a decision that we are making with the best interests of our community at heart. I have refuted the assertions around that I'm looking to be a CE of a new water, CCO, of anything like that. It's just nonsense. We are not giving away our water. We're not packing up all the pipes in a box and shipping them off to some unknown buyer. We're not putting them on Trade Me. This is very simply a case of trying to do the best thing for our ratepayers. Water expenses are going to be going up. What we're trying to do is make sure that they're going up by the least amount. And that's certainly been my goal all the way through this, to make sure that people get good water services delivered well and at the most affordable price, which in all fairness, it won't be affordable for everyone in the way it should be, but it's that's the cost of what has to be done. There's been a lot of information put out into the community around all of the water that the work we need to do on water infrastructure over the next 10 years, and our asset management planning, which goes out 30 years, shows a lot more. Even this week, we've been hearing some of the compliance issues and so forth with water that I think we need to make sure the public is aware of. They are things that we would normally be handling in-house, but it's going to be more cost effective to be doing it as part of a larger group that has efficiency, that has good procurement, that has good processes, and can do the job without, I guess, some of the delays and so on that can happen within councils, but also with some oversight by councils who will still be shareholders in whatever new CCO was created. I also have sympathies with the idea of looking to South Canterbury to work with, and hence my conversations with Acting Mayor Kara Morgan and Mayor Nigel Bowen of Mackenzie and Timaru respectively. They are open-minded about joining together with the Southern Group. The Southern Group remains open-minded about working with others, and it could give us really the best of both worlds where currently we've got between those 6 councils, 6 water managers. We won't be needing 6 water managers. There'll be a CEO and there'll be no doubt some area managers and so forth. There will be duplication of other staffing and other requirements that we can eliminate through sharing a model like this. So I'm confident that our preferred option is the one that's going to be best, but we've obviously got those other options in there. And the consultation document itself, I think, is going to give us as much information as possible for our community to get informed and make submissions. And we'll see how they go. I'll just finish off by saying it's quite ironic that one of our biggest critics in the community about how badly council does about anything still thinks we do water better than anyone else could possibly do it. So with that, I'll just finish and say this is something that we are doing for the benefit of our community, and we will see how the community responds. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be supporting the consultation document today, but I'd just ask everyone who's taking an interest in this to think beyond the fact it's not the water that comes out of the tap that we drink or we wash with. It's also the costs involved as to where that water goes once we've used it or processed it. And the issue is actually bigger than Ben Hur.
Thank you. Councillor McCone.
Yeah, look, legislation has brought us to this point, and it's not something we're doing locally, it's across the country. So we're actually bound to do this by law. Whether we agree with it or not, that's up to each individual. But what I would state is that if you have a say, please do so. I know we've been consulted out and everything else, but this is very important and gives the direction of where that water and who will be looking after it on the legislation side will be determined partly by the submissions that are put in. So don't sit on your hands, make the decision. I think the document here explains everything. And if you don't know, please ring one of us or someone that does know and we can explain it.
Thank you, John. Jim H.
Thank you, Mr. Like Councillor Thompson, I will support this document today, or I support the release of it, with reservations, which I shall amplify in a moment. I'll start by saying something that might seem absolutely incongruous, but I did hear on the radio yesterday that a recent survey in Auckland indicated that only 18% of residents and ratepayers in that city believe they had any ability to influence the council. And I would not be at all surprised if a similar figure, perhaps a little bit higher because we are a smaller and more intimate community, were to apply here and elsewhere in New Zealand. And one of the reasons I think this is happening, and I think this is the thing that really frustrates me about this document, the legislation keeps on saying, oh, you must consult with your community. But in point of fact, in this instance, and with LTPs, we're not actually consulting with the community. We're consulting, in fact, with invisible examiners, people in Wellington who have the capacity to say, no, change that. We don't like that. No, that's not sufficiently detailed. No, you're not speaking in sufficiently bureaucratic language. The stuff we love, the nice, woolly, vague, foggy stuff that bewilders, confuses and befuddles people. And our LTPs are contaminated by audits interference. And I believe this document has been written not for the community, but for those hidden examiners in Wellington and the Department of Internal Affairs and elsewhere who have the capacity to say, no, we don't like what you're doing. It's not detailed enough, or it's not specific enough, or you're not heading in the direction we want you to head. I will support the document on this condition, that it must go out in conjunction with egalitarian, simple, people-friendly, human engagement in strange, weird ways that some people, middle-class people, academic people might say, oh, that's too silly, that's too frivolous. But if it reaches real people with real anxieties who are going to actually pay the real bills that we keep talking about in general terms in this and other material, then I say that is essential and necessary. So, well, in fact, that's superfluous, as essential is necessary and vice versa. But having insisted on simplicity. But okay, so we've produced a document that satisfies the invisible examiner. Now let's augment it with stuff that reaches real people and actually engages with more than 18% of the community in a way that makes them feel they do have a capacity to influence their future and ours.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Tim.
Thank you. I think, our decision making in this area has real potential to set us on a course for the future of local government beyond water. And so, it's critical that we do genuinely engage with the community on this matter. I don't think we've appropriately canvassed the what next question, and also what's left behind at council and what commitments we make to ensuring that people aren't incurring basically double costs between either entity. So I had kind of come along to this meeting today with the intention of voting against the document, but listening to the others, I don't think I'm going to stand in the way anymore. But I do have some serious concerns, and not having had the opportunity to feed into this strategic document, that effectively will result in engagement or effective engagement or not around a decision that's going to impact our community for potentially 50 to 100 years. It has left me feeling a little bit disappointed, and I think.
Okay, I think obviously it was frozen there, but the sound was still coming through. But I think it must have dropped right off. But yeah, oh, you're back in, Tim.
Yeah. Can you hear me there?
Yeah. I think that's helping having your camera off.
Yeah. So I think in places this document reads a little bit like a manifesto, not something that seeks to garner an informed response from our community. And in places I feel like we're genuinely missing analysis for context in all the options, including our preferred one. But obviously with an hour set aside on Zoom today, we're unable to kind of genuinely influence that in any meaningful way. So again, I've decided I'm not going to vote against it. I did just want to express some concerns that I do genuinely have.
Thank you, Tim. Any other speakers? Okay. I will put that then. Those in favour of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand if you're online.
Aye.
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Thank you very much. I understand the frustration and so on that's been here. We did get a brief opportunity to feed in last Thursday, I think, but it was only brief. I am pleased that some of the suggestions I put in have been picked up, in particular things around emphasising the fourth water rural water schemes a bit more, because that is something that's quite important to a district like ours. Actually, the birthplace of rural water schemes, so it's quite pertinent. And yeah, there is definitely opportunity to send clearer messaging or simpler, more, what did you say, people friendly, Councillor Hopkins, to give more of that messaging as at least as an intro to pointing them towards the document itself if they want the more detailed information. So yep, totally agree, and I believe some of the suggestions you've made, Councillor Hopkins, will get picked up and able to be translated into social media posts and maybe some on-screen starring role for yourself as well, perhaps. So, but thank you for that. Thank you everyone who has fed into this process overall. We will see what it is. I do agree with Councillor Hopkins. It is a bit ridiculous that we told we have to consult, whereas we actually know that you know, the challenges of some of the options that are there, and it would be very difficult for us to say that's what we're going with, because we know ratepayers would be worse off, and that's the conundrum we have. And I just acknowledge that aspect. This is definitely about informing the community as much as we can, and we will be having a variety of other information sessions. There will be some joint videos with other councils. There will be 1 or 2 Facebook Live sessions where people can watch and ask questions directly. There will be 3 community meetings. So we are looking at what we can do to make sure that people are as informed as possible, so that whatever the decision we make at the end, people understand it and hopefully have had an opportunity to give their feedback in there along the way. So nothing else, anyone? Well, thank you very much, everyone who's been very involved in this, and we'll declare the meeting closed.